Republicans can't avoid the truth. They've shut down the government over Obamacare, and the American people know it. Joining me now is Congressman Fattah, Democrat of Pennsylvania, and Michelle Cotto. Thank you both for being here.
Thanks, Reverend.
Thank you, Rev.
Congressman, let me go to you first. 3/4 of the country is opposed to the Republican shutdown. How long can they drag this out?
Well, if we get a Democratic president and Republican Congress, we seem to get shutdowns. But when people look back at the Clinton years, they don't think about the shutdowns. They think about the 25 million new jobs. And when they look back at the Obama years, they're going to think about tens of millions of people being able to have access to health care. We can't be intimidated to equivocating on this issue. There can be no retreat on the Affordable Care Act. There won't be any retreat. I told your viewers a few weeks back that the president was not going to compromise on this issue, and we won't. And what they've done now is taken the entire government hostage.
But how long, if there's no retreat, how long can they keep in this inflexible position of a shutdown with already 72% of the country against them? As long as the president doesn't retreat, how long can they hold out like this?
Oh, I don't believe that they can hold out for long. In fact, they, as you mentioned on the front edge of your program, they already are offering up opportunities to roll back some of these freezes. But we're not going to go for that. The Democratic position, both in the House and the Senate and at the White House, is that we're not going for a piecemeal approach.
Right.
That what we want to have is a operation of the government on the basis of the Republican budget number. We're willing to agree to their number for a period of a few weeks so that we can negotiate a budget for the new year. But we're not willing to have as part of that negotiations any retreat on Obama, it's a health care program, or on the debt ceiling. So it's not that the president won't negotiate. We'll negotiate about a budget. Right. But we're not going to negotiate about the country defaulting on its credit, and we're not going to retreat 1 inch on what you see today, which is millions of Americans for the first time having access to affordable health care.
And we're not going to see the president or the Democrats piecemeal. Michelle, the president has said he's not going to sign it. They won't sign anything that is not involving all that we should see from his perspective.
Look, he's made very clear that at this point, negotiating with a gun to his head, so to speak, is not in the plan. Right. I mean, what you have is every few months we're doing this. And I think, you know, one of the things that people have been talking about is unless there was a very fast resolution to this shutdown, would it just go forward until the debt ceiling resolution has to occur? And if not, then, you know, one of the things that Republicans have tried is to say they want to go to conference committee, but with just the temporary continuing resolution as opposed to a big budget deal, which means we're doing this again in several weeks. So I think Obama is trying to make clear that this kind of government by crisis, you know, funding just a few weeks at a time is unacceptable. And in that case, he really can't negotiate.
Congressman Fattah, you heard a Republican refer to the shutdown as a paid vacation on my program last night. But here's what the president said about people forced to miss work.
Hundreds of thousands of civilian workers, many still on the job, many forced to stay home, aren't being paid, even if they have families to support and local businesses that rely on them. And we know that the longer this shutdown continues, the worse the effects will be. More families will be hurt, more businesses will be harmed.
The president says more families will be hurt. Isn't this the message the American people want to hear about how it affects ordinary people, families, not this brinkmanship on Capitol Hill, Congressman?
Well, Reverend, families with children suffering from cancer were turned away from clinical trials that they are participating in, but had to be shut down at the National Institute of Health today. This is not just government workers and whether they're going to get paid or not. These are people who come into work to make a difference every day, whether at the National Weather Service, whether at NIH, whether in Homeland Security or in our law enforcement agencies. These are people who, they didn't go in the government service to make a lot of money. They went in the government service to provide services to the public, and they are dedicated. this issue, you know, we heard the speaker at one point say he would never negotiate with the president anymore. We heard Canada when he walked out of the Majority Leader Canada when he walked out of the budget negotiations on the grand bargain, and you showed this a few years ago, where he said the president we need to work out a deal between the House and the Senate, and the president either signs or vetoes. This is not a debate between the House Republicans and the president. They have to pass something in the House that the Senate is willing to pass in order for the president to be able to sign or veto it. And what they've been unwilling to do is to hear the Senate majority when it said that the only thing they're willing to negotiate on a budget are budget-related matters. They're not willing to see any retreat on affordable care.
You know, Michelle, let me ask you, are the moderate Republicans cracking? I was going to say, it appears to me there seems to be some cracking there, but do you think that some of the moderate Republicans are cracking? Check this out, which is why I'm asking the question.
I know this is hurting employment in our area. It's hurting our country. I guess the question is, to those who think that, you know, a shutdown of 7 or 8 or 9 days, does that advance our cause? If your answer is yes, then go down that path. My conclusion is it doesn't.
He says it's hurting real people. I mean, what do you start to see some of the moderates openly and publicly trying to back away from this kind of hardline position taken by some of the extremists in their party?
Look, there has been a huge chunk of the Republican Party that has been extremely eager to avoid this shutdown. You've had strategists going up to the Hill. You've had people kind of putting polls out there to kind of shore up the message that this is a bad thing for the party to do. You've had John McCain out there. You've had Congressman Peter King out there saying, we've been through this. This is a terrible idea. So, you know, it's going to be interesting to see where that pressure leads. But you've had it for a while now, and it's just going to get more intense as this goes on.
Congressman Fattah, Michelle Cottle, thank you both for your time tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, more from the president on this historic day. The